Hello, everyone, and welcome to What's Now. I'm your host, Christine Napier. This is a show all about interesting things going on across the country, information that you need to know about. And on today's episode, we're going to focus on business, real estate, and something new to watch. But up first, the real estate market is hot. There's bidding wars all across the country. What do you need to do to be prepared as a buyer, as a seller? Well, I recently spoke with Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. Let's take a look.
Low mortgage rates and high demand continue to fuel one of the hottest real estate markets in years, with so many people, particularly millennial homebuyers, searching and in some cases competing for properties. Our guest says having a plan can make a difference between the house you're dreaming about or being left in the cold. Joining us with tips is Arlene Maloney, a Senior Vice President with Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. Arlene, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Christine. Thanks for having me.
So first off, in your opinion, what continues to drive this incredibly hot home buying market right now?
Well, it is a very incredibly hot market, and there's many factors that are driving it. But a couple of the key factors is number one, millennials. You mentioned it there in your opening, and we're starting to see millennials enter the home buying market at a very rapid pace. This was something that we always knew would happen. And now we're seeing it come to fruition. And then additionally, we're just coming off a pandemic, and, most people like me spent more time in their home than they ever thought possible. And it really reinforced the value of home ownership, as well as the things that our home needed to be used for, and redefining that. But at the end of the day, even though it's a hot market, there's still opportunity out there. It just requires buyers to be patient and to have a plan.
What are some trends you're seeing both nationally and locally, and how quickly are homes selling once they hit the market right now?
Yeah, so things are selling quite quickly. If you look nationally, it's about 17 days. And in your own Park City area there, we're still looking at about 9.5 days. So that is an incredibly robust market. We're seeing tight inventory as well as high demand, and those are combining to make it a seller's market and make it a very competitive marketplace for buyers who are putting in offers. Additionally, adding to that is the historically low interest rate environment we're seeing, which is also creating the ability for buyers to gain more buying power, as well as leading to at times price appreciation in the housing market. But again, this doesn't mean it's not a good time to buy. It just means that buyers need to be patient. They need to be prepared, and they need to be ready to keep trying, because it may take a couple of tries to get the home of your dreams.
Well, exactly. I'm hearing about bidding wars, and it's just really hard right now. And, you mentioned making a plan going into it. What are some tips for planning when there's really a lot out of your control and it's unpredictable?
Yeah, so first of all, it's about education and answering questions. Make sure as a buyer that your questions are all answered. Get with a home mortgage consultant at Wells Fargo Home Mortgage and others in the industry who can answer all those questions, not just about what you'll qualify for, but also about the process itself, because it is confusing and complicated. Secondly, we like to say, find your funds before you find your home. And what we mean by that is get pre-approved and have your pre-approval letter in hand. This is going to provide confidence for buyers as they go out and look at homes, but it's also going to provide a very strong position for them as they start to make offers on homes. And then lastly, prioritize what they want. What are the must-haves versus the nice-to-haves in their new home? And then lastly, I just say, as you have put the time together to put a plan together, make sure you stick to your plan. It will really help sustain you and help you ensure that you end up in a position that can ensure your long-term financial success.
Well, and speaking of planning, how can you plan for the costs with such a big purchase? There can be all those extra closing costs or other things. So what do you need to take into consideration that you might not be thinking about?
Yeah, I think it's a very smart question, and it's important that consumers do have that full knowledge of what they're engaging in and what they're embarking on in diving into home ownership. First of all, meet with a home mortgage consultant to understand what all the costs are going to be associated with purchasing the home. And then secondly, I'd say Talk to them about your down payment. Do you want to put a higher down payment or a lower down payment down? Both have different consequences based on the answer. And you want to make sure that you are equipped to answer that question in the best way possible for your situation. Next, I would say on the payment, be aware that your payments are not just going to be a repayment of your loan, the principal and interest, but you also need to prepare for taxes and insurance and the other costs that are associated with home ownership. And then lastly, when you're a new buyer, don't get out of that savings pattern that got you to this place to be able to buy a home in the first place. There are going to be things that come as surprises, whether it's a leaky dishwasher or a furnace that's about ready to go out. You don't want these costs to catch you off guard and not be aware or prepared for them. You know, at the end of the day, buying a home is an emotional experience, but you want to make sure that your decisions as a buyer are based in fact and education to ensure your financial success.
This is great information for anyone who's buying or selling right now. Where can we find out more about everything we've talked about?
We'd welcome your viewers to go to www.wellsfargo.com/myfirsthome, where they'll find a wealth of tools and information about the home buying process and how to get started.
Well, thank you so much, Arlene, for joining us today. I appreciate this great information, tips for buyers, sellers, all the things to help us navigate this crazy market right now.
Thanks, Christine. Enjoyed our time together.